But not a Russian cipher clerk with a file photo of a British agent.
Because I have anticipated every possible variation of counter-move.
Darling Moneypenny, you know I never even look at another woman.
From Russia with Love, 1963, directed by Terence Young, was the second James Bond film, and the one that cemented 007 as a global icon. Sean Connery returned as Bond in a Cold War spy story filled with exotic locations, deadly villains, and classic action. A huge box office success, it's still considered one of the finest Bond adventures. But behind the espionage and glamour, the making of From Russia with Love was full of surprising stories, challenges, and unusual details. Here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about From Russia with Love, 1963. Number 1. Alfred Hitchcock was reportedly interested in directing. After the worldwide success of Dr. No in 1962, the Bond producers wanted to build momentum quickly for the sequel. To the surprise of many, Alfred Hitchcock was reportedly interested in directing the follow-up. At the time, Hitchcock was already one of the most famous filmmakers in the world, known for suspense classics like Psycho, Rear Window, and North by Northwest. His involvement would have given the series even more prestige. However, the director's chair wasn't actually available, as Dr. No director Terence Young had already committed to returning. Hitchcock never got the chance to helm a Bond film, though producers continued to hope for a collaboration. In the end, North by Northwest remains the closest example of what a Hitchcock-directed James Bond thriller might have looked like. Number 2. The script was constantly rewritten during production. Because United Artists wanted From Russia with Love in theaters just 1 year after Dr. No, the filmmakers worked under immense pressure. Screenwriter Richard Maybaum was tasked with delivering a script that could be adjusted on the fly, and as a result, scenes were often rewritten during filming. This meant that changes were made not just between shooting days, but sometimes on set itself, with dialogue and action shifting according to production needs. One of the biggest late adjustments was the inclusion of Red Grant in the Istanbul sequences, which were rewritten shortly before the cast and crew flew to Turkey. This gave the Spectre plotline much greater prominence and firmly established the shadowy organization as Bond's ultimate nemesis. The constant rewrites reflected the rushed schedule, but the end result was still a polished classic. Number 3. Eon avoided a Russian villain because of the Cold War. When adapting Ian Fleming's novel From Russia with Love, the producers faced a tricky political dilemma. In the book, the villains are explicitly Soviet agents working against Bond, but by the early 1960s, the Cold War was at a dangerous peak. Eon Productions didn't want to risk inflaming tensions or alienating international audiences by portraying the Russians directly as Bond's enemies on screen. Hoping that the Cold War might one day ease, they instead shifted the blame to a fictional global crime syndicate, SPECTRE. This change allowed the filmmakers to keep the espionage intrigue while sidestepping real-world politics. The decision not only kept the movie palatable for audiences worldwide, but also introduced one of the series' most enduring and iconic villainous organizations, shaping Bond's cinematic future for years to come. Number 4. Stanley Kubrick poached Eon's go-to production designer. Ken Adam was the genius production designer behind some of the most striking visuals in the Bond franchise, including the villain's lairs and the sleek, futuristic sets that define the series. After his work on Dr. No, Adam was brought back for From Russia with Love and began sketching ideas for the sequel. However, before filming really got underway, director Stanley Kubrick personally recruited Adam to design the elaborate sets for Dr. Strangelove. Kubrick's offer was too tempting to refuse, and Adam stepped away from Bond temporarily. His absence was felt, but the production carried on with other designers filling the gap. Adam would later return to the franchise, creating some of its most iconic sets. But for From Russia with Love, his talents belonged to Kubrick's vision of Cold War satire. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome movie facts. And tell us in the comments, what movie brings you the most nostalgia, and which one should we cover next? Number 5. Ian Fleming was won over by Connery's Bond in this movie. When Sean Connery was first cast as James Bond in Dr. No, author Ian Fleming wasn't convinced. In Fleming's eyes, Connery was too rough around the edges, lacking the polished, aristocratic air he envisioned for his famous spy. But by the time From Russia with Love went into production, Connery had grown more comfortable in the role, refining Bond's mix of charm, wit, and danger. Fleming visited the set and observed Connery in action, and it was during this film that his opinion shifted. He reportedly warmed to Connery's performance, admitting that the Scottish actor brought a vitality to Bond that perfectly balanced suaveness with grit. Fleming was so impressed, he even gave Bond Scottish ancestry in later novels, a nod to Connery's background. Number 6. Sean Connery almost died, filming the helicopter scene. One of the most thrilling sequences in From Russia with Love is the climactic helicopter chase, where Bond is pursued across open terrain by a swooping aircraft. Filming the scene, however, nearly ended in tragedy. During one take, the helicopter flew dangerously close to Sean Connery, misjudging its distance as it dived toward him. The machine came within feet of decapitating the actor before pulling away at the last possible second. Crew members were horrified, and Connery himself admitted afterward that he had been genuinely shaken by how close he came to death. Despite the scare, he insisted on finishing the scene to keep the film on schedule. The near miss added an extra edge to the sequence, knowing that Connery's real fear made it to the screen. Number 7. Terence Young also survived a helicopter near-death experience. Sean Connery wasn't the only one to have a brush with death involving a helicopter on From Russia with Love. Director Terence Young had his own terrifying encounter during production. While scouting locations and overseeing aerial shots, Young was in a helicopter that suffered a mechanical failure mid-flight. The aircraft plunged into the water, crashing hard enough to leave those on board scrambling for their lives. Miraculously, Young survived the impact and managed to escape without serious injury, though the experience left him visibly shaken. Ever the professional, he returned to work shortly afterward, determined to keep the film on track. His survival mirrored the kind of high-stakes danger faced by James Bond himself, reinforcing the reputation of From Russia.
Now I'm sure Commissar Benz will have a much safer journey.
Not mad about his tail, are you?
With Love as one of the most perilous Bond shoots ever filmed. Number 8. Pedro Armendáriz filmed while dying of cancer. Pedro Armendáriz, who played Karim Bey, gave one of the most memorable performances in From Russia with Love. But few knew at the time the immense personal struggle he endured during filming. Armendáriz had been diagnosed with terminal cancer before production began. Determined to complete the role, he continued shooting despite his illness, often working through intense pain.
Charming. Charming. Let's go to the restaurant car, James, for...
Director Terence Young and the crew adjusted schedules to accommodate him, making sure he could rest between scenes. Armendáriz pushed forward with remarkable dedication, bringing warmth and humor to the character.
Not be alarmed, my friend. We will make you as comfortable as possible.
Sadly, shortly after filming wrapped, his health rapidly declined, and he took his own life to avoid prolonged suffering. The film stands as his final performance, and fans still admire the strength and professionalism he displayed in bringing Karim Bey to life. Number 9. It was the last movie JFK saw before his death. President John F. Kennedy was famously a James Bond fan, so much so that he once listed Ian Fleming's From Russia with Love among his 10 favorite books. When the film adaptation was released in 1963, Kennedy arranged for a private screening at the White House. Just days before his assassination in Dallas on November 22nd, he watched the movie, making it the final film he ever saw. This eerie coincidence added to the film's legend, tying Bond's Cold War adventures to one of the most shocking moments in American history. For Eon Productions, the connection also served as an unintentional endorsement, proving Bond had fans at the very highest levels of power. To this day, it remains one of the most unusual and poignant footnotes in Bond history. Number 10. Most of the film wasn't shot abroad. While Dr. No showcased Jamaica, the filmmakers initially hoped From Russia with Love would highlight Europe. However, Cold War politics made filming behind the Iron Curtain nearly impossible. and financial considerations shaped the production even further. To qualify for British film funding, at least 70% of the movie had to be shot either in the UK or in the Commonwealth. As a result, many of the overseas locations had to be recreated at Pinewood Studios. One prominent example was the Gypsy Camp. Although a real encampment had been scouted in Turkey, production designer Sid Kane built a convincing replica on the backlot in Buckinghamshire.
It seems we've come on the wrong night.
Other sequences were also shot in the British Isles, meaning only about 30% of the finished film was actually filmed in Istanbul, the Balkans, and Venice. Number 11. Captain Nash was played by the production manager. One of the most chilling sequences in From Russia with Love comes when Spectre assassin Red Grant intercepts James Bond's contact, Captain Nash, at the Zagreb train station. Originally, a professional actor had been hired to play Nash, but he backed out at the last minute, reportedly uncomfortable with the size and intensity of the production. Rather than delay filming, director Terence Young handed the role to the film's production manager, William Bill Hill, who received on-screen credit. In the scene, Nash's brief exchange with Grant is drowned out by the noise of the train and station, adding to the atmosphere. Seconds later, Grant emerges alone, disguised as Nash and carrying his attaché case.
No stops till then. Would have to jump off. Can you get us across? Any of the opposition?
Leaving audiences to imagine the agent's brutal fate. Hill's brief appearance became one of the movie's most memorable moments. Number 12. The filmmakers' wives had cameo roles. Bond films are known for their fun cameos, with producer Michael G. Wilson famously making Hitchcock-style appearances in nearly every film from The Spy Who Loved Me onwards. But in From Russia with Love, it was the filmmakers' wives who stepped briefly into the spotlight. During the Belgrade station sequence where Bond meets Mehmet, one of Karim Bey's sons, producer Harry Saltzman's wife Jacqueline, can be spotted leaning out of a train window right in front of Red Grant as he keeps Bond under surveillance. Later, in the romantic finale set in Venice, when Bond and Tatiana enjoy a gondola ride, they are filmed by a tourist couple on the Ponte della Paglia. The woman behind the camera is Dorothea Bennett, novelist, screenwriter, and the first wife of director Terence Young. Number 13. The BBFC nearly gave the film an X rating. While today the early Bond films are often seen as family-friendly adventure stories, in the 1960s they were considered rather risque. At the time of release, From Russia with Love raised eyebrows among critics who noted its mix of absurdity, violence, and sadism. The British Board of Film Classification ultimately granted the film an A certificate, meaning children under 11 could attend with an adult.
No.
However, one scene nearly pushed it into X territory, restricting it to audiences over 16. The controversial moment came when Bond and Tatiana are filmed through a one-way mirror by Rosa Klebb and a SPECTRE cameraman. Originally, the cameraman's visible sweating, caused by hot studio lights, was deemed too voyeuristic. The filmmakers trimmed his appearance to avoid the dreaded X, ensuring the film could reach a wider audience.
I may even give up golf for it.
Really?
Number 14. Vladek Sheybal was persuaded into the role of Kronstein. Polish actor Vladek Sheybal became a familiar face in spy films of the 1960s and 70s, often playing sinister, cerebral villains. But his career in the genre might never have happened without From Russia with Love. Initially, Sheybal was reluctant to accept the role of Spectre's number 5, Kronstein. Even though this was only the second Bond film, it was clear the franchise was already gaining enormous popularity, and he feared being typecast as a villain. Fortunately, Sheybal's friend Sean Connery convinced him to take the part, reassuring him that it would open doors. Connery was right. The role launched Sheybal into a string of spy movie appearances. Unlike in Fleming's novel, however, Kronstein meets a brutal end on screen, ensuring Sheybal wouldn't be tied down to a recurring role within the Bond universe. Number 15. Sylvia Trench was supposed to be a recurring Bond character. Sylvia Trench, played by Eunice Gayson, debuted in Dr. No as Bond's love interest and returned in From Russia with Love for a brief picnic scene interrupted by duty. Director Terence Young and writer Richard Maybaum planned to make her a recurring presence, with Bond always leaving her behind at the start of each mission. The franchise was even meant to end with Bond marrying her.
But as I said before, we won't always be working on the company's time, will we?
No.
But once Young departed, the idea was abandoned. By Thunderball, Sylvia had disappeared entirely. Number 16. The Orient Express was filmed in multiple countries. The Orient Express adds suspense and elegance to From Russia with Love, but not all of it was filmed in Turkey. While Bond and Tatiana boarded the real train in Istanbul, exterior shots couldn't be filmed behind the Iron Curtain. Instead, the crew shot in Argyll, Scotland, doubling as the Balkans, with Switzerland also providing key backdrops. Though the original train ceased service in 2009, the Venice-Simplon route keeps its legacy alive with restored carriages, preserving its timeless mystique. Number 17. Filming the rat scene took a trip to Spain. The Basilica Cistern rat sequence was far more difficult than it appeared. At Pinewood Studios, lab rats coated in cocoa simply licked themselves clean instead of running. A second batch refused to move until Sean Connery opened a door for fresh air. With wild rats banned in Britain, Terence Young took a crew to Madrid, where a local rat catcher supplied 200 sewer rats. The unsettling results gave From Russia with Love one of its creepiest and most memorable scenes. Number 18. Bond Mania disrupted filming in Istanbul. By the time From Russia with Love was filming, Bond Mania was already in full swing. When the crew shot the scene of Bond, Karim, and Tatiana boarding the Orient Express at Circucci Station, thousands of onlookers swarmed the set. Filming became nearly impossible, so director Terence Young enlisted stunt coordinator Peter Perkins to create a diversion. Perkins dangled upside down from a balcony, pretending to be stuck, drawing the crowd's attention away. The distraction worked, allowing the team to capture the sequence. It was clear Bond had already become an international phenomenon, even before Goldfinger cemented his superstardom. Number 19. The iconic title sequences began with From Russia with Love. After designer Maurice Binder departed, Robert Brownjohn took over the opening titles for From Russia with Love. Inspired when his wife walked in front of a slide projector, Brownjohn developed the idea of projecting credits onto dancers' bodies. He also drew on Hungarian artist Laszlo Moholy-Nagy's light experiments, though Binder is often credited with creating the scantily clad women motif. It was Brownjohn who introduced it here. The stylish imagery became a Bond hallmark, blending sex appeal with surreal design. Brownjohn returned for Goldfinger, projecting imagery onto a gold-painted Margaret Nolan, cementing the Bond series' reputation for striking title sequences. Number 20. The boat chase was dangerous on and off screen. The climactic boat chase between Bond, Tatiana, and Spectre wasn't in Ian Fleming's novel. It was added to give the film a more explosive finale. Filmed partly in Western Scotland and in Pinewood Studios' paddock tank, the sequence was plagued with problems. During location scouting, director Terence Young's helicopter crashed into 40 feet of water. Trapped underwater in an air pocket with 2 crew members, Young was eventually rescued, then astonishingly returned to work the same day with his arm in a sling. Daniela Bianchi, meanwhile, was injured in a car accident and battled seasickness during the shoot. The explosions also turned hazardous when flames engulfed Spectre's boats. Injuring 3 stuntmen and burning actor Walter Gotell's eyelids. Fortunately, Gotell recovered and went on to play KGB Chief General Gogol in later Bond films. The boat chase became a thrilling sequence born from near disaster. And that's 20 weird facts about From Russia with Love. 1963. From near-death stunts to groundbreaking traditions, this Bond classic helped shape the franchise into the global phenomenon it is today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments which Bond film you want us to cover next.